criticize people because of the books that they read. Loca. But okay, got it. How do you become a reader? Well, the obvious answer to that question would be read a damn book. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Benny, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you everything you need to know to become a reader in 2025 or wherever you're watching this. In this video you're gonna see book recommendations that will make you fall in love with reading, book shopping, where to buy books, if there is like cheaper options, and what options do you have. We're gonna go through some bookish apps that I personally use and that I love. I think they're really helpful if you want to become a reader, as well as all the bookish things that this world comes with, and last but not least, the book community. So let's jump into the video and let's start with some book recommendations that will make you fall in love with reading. Okay, so I selected most books that I think that are a good start to start reading. Some books are mainly very addictive, meaning that they're either fast-paced or the storyline is very addictive, so you just want to keep going and read more books. So let's get started with romance. The first romance author, Elsie Silver. She also has another series that I have not read yet, but those are all of her books that I did read. The first series that I personally read is none other than the Chestnut Spring series, and I think this is the series that she's most known for. You can read them like not in order, but I would suggest to read it in order simply because one of the best things about the series is the found family aspect, and this is my favorite part of the series and I highly recommend it also for that reason. But Elsie Silver has an amazing way to just like make you fall in love with the characters. Each characters have very distinct personality. My favorite of the series is Heartless, which is the second in the series, and it's about Willa and Cade. It's a cowboy romance, so if you like that kind of world, it is really fun for that as well. And it's set in a small town, which is super fun. In the same kind of world, like, but not really. It's a different town, but we have some cameo of those characters in this other series, which is the Rose Hill series, also from Elsie Silver. This is her newest one. She's coming out with a third one in March, I believe. I love this series so much. So for now, we have Wild Love, which is the first one, and then Wild Eyes, which is the second one. And both of them kind of have some music aspect, like of the music world, because in the first one, we follow Ford and Rosie, and Ford is a producer, a music producer, and in Wild Eyes we follow Skylar and Rosie's brother, Weston. Skylar is actually a really famous singer. If you listen to the audiobook, there are an actual song and it's not just like words on a paper. And I love how both of those have like aspect of the musical industry in it. I think it's really fun and it's like something different. And moving on, I wanted to put this in here because this is a graphic novel, which is also really popular, the Heartstopper series. This is a 5-book series and it's a graphic novel, meaning that you have graphics and it's not just words. It's really fun. It talks about Charlie and Nick, that they go to high school together, and basically Charlie is openly gay and Nick is really trying to understand his sexuality. And I think that is really important specifically because this is targeted for young adults, and I think there's a lot of themes in here that are important, such as mental health or struggles with eating. It has a lot of messages in it. Also a TV show that came out on Netflix that I still have to watch, and it's also a really cool way to keep you motivated by reading. Like for example, I started this during the summer and I was in the worst slump in my life. Like I literally read probably like 5 books in the whole summer, and those saved me because it will take you probably an hour and a half, maximum 2 hours to read an entire book, and it keeps you motivating because you see yourself like finishing a book so that you want to start another one because you have that adrenaline of like finishing a book, or at least that's what happens to me. And I think graphic novels are a really great way for you to just like keep yourself motivated. And there's like a whole world of graphic novels that I will probably do a separate video because I got obsessed with this series, and then I saw that there's so many amazing graphic novels that I never knew, and I think it's a great way to just like, I don't know, have like a little fun read and just like finish a book in 2 hours. And then moving on, more, I wouldn't say like complicated, but they do require a bit more attention. I mean, at least to me, I needed a little bit more brain power to read those books because they're a little quote unquote deeper, or at least like, I guess even the writing, it's a bit more researched. I don't know, like I don't want to bring down the other ones because I love them all. all. It's just that I don't know how to explain it. Like if you want a little something more, I would suggest those books. So first things first, obviously the world of Emily Henry. I think she's an incredible author and I still am in the middle of it. Like I still have to read 3 of her books. I read Beach Read, which is my favorite so far from her, and it is so amazing because her writing style is incredible. I have like so many tabs, and she's also coming out with another book I think in April. Also, People We Meet on Vacation is getting turned into a movie with Tom Blythe, which I'm so excited about it. I still have not read the book, but I'm really excited to read the book and then watch the movie. And I think either Book Lovers or Beach Read are getting turned into movies, but I'm not sure. But it's really cool that those books that I loved for so long are getting put into movies. That's why I love this world so much, because it's literally like colliding the 2 worlds that I love the most. Speaking of worlds that I personally love, and I'm literally in the thick of it because I'm at the 3rd book, I cannot not recommend Magnolia Parks, which is my current obsession. I absolutely love the world of Magnolia Parks. If you love Gossip Girl, you will love this. And honestly, I find it sometimes even messier than Gossip Girl. I just set in London and you literally follow like a bunch of rich kids drama. One of the best things about this series and those books is the writing. Jessica Hastings' writing is one of the most beautiful things I've ever read. You have so many quotes in here. They're absolutely incredible, and like every time that I read her books, like I feel so immersed in the story and the world, and I don't know how she does it, but it's like it's so quick. Like I read one sentence and I'm in it. Like I cannot stop reading, if that makes sense. So basically the series is following 2 different couples. We have Magnolia Parks and BJ in Magnolia Parks. There's 3 books out, which is Magnolia Parks, Long Way Home, and the 3rd and last is Magnolia Parks Into the Dark. So I am in the thick of Long Way Home, which I see that it's like a fan favorite. Then we also follow Daisy Hates, which is the story of Daisy Hates and Kristen. The thing about this that is so cool, obviously, I mean, you have to read them in order because Magnolia Parks and Daisy Hates, I read those 2 already and I was really confused by the timeline, but they're happening at the same time. So you have to read Magnolia Parks in order to understand Daisy Hates. Okay, so moving on, I have a bunch of standalones that I want to talk about. So the first book is One Day in December by Josie Silver. This book, I thought it was going to be a Christmassy book. I read it in December, but it's actually not. It kind of reminded me of One Day and Love, Rosie. If you love those movies, you're definitely going to love this book. It's basically about these 2 people that literally have like love at first sight. So they meet one day in December in a bus in London. It's also set in London, which I love. From there, like she's totally in love with this man, cannot find him, whatever. And then one day her best friend introduces her new boyfriend to our female main character. And the boyfriend is the bus guy. And basically you go on and see their lives like throughout the span of like 5-6 years, even more than that. I think 9 years, but I'm not really sure. It's a lot of years, and basically you see their development as friendship. So if you like a slow burn, this is definitely it. Like it is so slow, so I highly recommend it. And then another book that it was popular a long time ago, I actually read this like at the beginning of my reading journey and I really loved it. I think I will want to reread it again because I remember loving it so much and sobbed at the end. But the book that I'm talking about is Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino. First and foremost, is it set in New York City. I love books that are set in New York because I think that New York is its own character within a book, and it just like brings so much character, so much personality to the book already. And I really love this. This is a friends to lovers to strangers to lovers again. You follow 2 timelines when they first fell in love in college and they were best friends, and then they fell in love and then they lose touch because of a miscommunication situation there, whatever. They break up and later, I think 15 or 10 years, something like that, they meet again. A lot of things have changed and there's like a lot of things to uncover, and it is beautiful. And I think there's like, they're both artists. Like I know that the male character is a photographer, but I don't remember the girl. If you like something a little bit more emotional, want to cry a lot, I would suggest Darling Venom by Parker S. Huntington. I think this is a great book if you want to cry a lot. I literally cried so much during this book. It is a lot more deeper, and I would suggest to, and it's not suggest, like you have to read the trigger warnings before you read this book because there's some heavy topics. I love the character development of the different characters here. I love the writing. Every 2 chapters I just cried. Speaking of good cries, Just for the Summer by Abby Aminez. Don't be fooled by the cover or the title because it is not what you think it is. I really thought it was going to be a silly little romance. It's not at all. It's very deep. It talks a lot about mental health. It talks a lot about family trauma. Love the romance so much because when you go through so many traumatic things in life, like you really want that person. And Abby Aminas literally described the dream man. And then I also would recommend something a little different because this is a magical realism book and it's The 7-Year Slip, and there's so many good quotes in here. It's also set in New York. I think one of the best parts of this book is the apartment. We follow the female main character going through like the apartment being 7 years in the past. When the apartment is 7 years in the past, there's a man inside the apartment. But I love how falling in love with a man that she doesn't even know where he is or what he's doing or whatever. It's not only a romance, it's also, I would say like a woman's fiction because you follow the main character even having like so much growth, and she's trying to find herself and trying to become whatever she wanted to become and kind of like breaking the expectations of other people, following her heart. And I think that is one of my favorite things about this book because it's not just a romance, it's also a lot more than that, and it's also a bit inspiring because yeah, you follow somebody following her dreams, so that's cool. And yeah, so I highly recommend it and I love this book so much, so I hope you love it too. So let's move on with some thriller and mysteries recommendations. Okay, first things first, as a thriller, I recommend this author so much. I read 3 books so far from her and I absolutely love it, and I'm talking about none other than Frida McFadden. Her most popular book is The Housemaid, which is becoming a series. I don't even know how many books they are in the series. I know there's 3 in total that I have not read. I only read 2 of them. So The Housemaid and The Housemaid's Secret. Specifically in this one, you follow a housemaid that gets hired by a family, and basically a lot of things go wrong, as in a thriller shit. Like, I don't want to tell you everything. I would just say that her room doesn't have a lock. Like, the only lock that her room has is from the outside. So you can only lock the door from the outside, which is really weird. And there's a lot going on. And one of the things that I love the most about this book is Frida McFadden's writing. I think her writing is so good. And like, I'm a very skeptical person when it comes to thrillers because I love thriller movies and I just love that world of like a little darkness, a little mystery, a little like what is happening, oh my god, and like the plot twist that it gives you so much adrenaline that sometimes I'm just like so underwhelmed. But Frida McFadden does it for me every single time, and I want to read more of her books because I know that she's becoming really popular and she's like writing books like very fast. Like every few months I see a new book from her. The Housemaid's Secret, this is basically the same thing, but I love The Housemaid, which is the first one. I literally read it in one sitting and it's really fast paced, and I think like thrillers are the perfect way for you to start reading because that's how I started as well. Like there was like some romance, but like mysteries, which I'm getting there, are what literally kept me going because you have the adrenaline, you have the fast pace, you have the plot twist, you have so many things that will make you fall in love with reading. And then moving on, I have Never Lie, which is also from Frida McFadden. This talks about a therapist that disappears, and basically there's this girl that goes to this house and she finds a cassette of interviews of her patients, and she's trying to figure out like what really happened to therapists. So it's also really cool and very, I would say like more than this one, like it's very airy, dark vibes, which I personally loved. So highly recommend it. And I also have another thriller which I was not able to find about, but it's kind of like the same vibes of this one, but I do not remember the title nor the author, but I'm going to try to find it through Goodreads and I'm going to put it up here because I also absolutely loved that book and I was like so surprised, and I think about it a lot when I think about thrillers, so I would also recommend that one as well. Okay, moving on, let's go into mainly mysteries. Okay, so first things first, I recommend the Natural series. It got really popular I think last year, the year before that, I don't really remember, but this is like Criminal Minds by White. So basically you follow a bunch of kids that have like natural powers. It's not magical or anything. They have like the skill of being an empath, but like higher level skill, if that makes sense. Like there's like a super empath, if that makes sense. So there's like a kid that knows how to spot lies and all that. So it's obviously fictional, but you follow those kids that get recruited by the FBI, and they have those natural talents that the FBI uses sometimes to spot like serial killers or trying to solve mystery murders and all that. I read the first 2. I still have to read the 3rd one, and there's also a 4th one, which is Bad Blood. Author of The Naturals is Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which is well known for her series The Inheritance Games. So this is one of the first, if not like the first series that I've read, and this is what got me into reading. Inheritance Games are literally like my dream books, specifically because I love treasure hunting books. I don't know if you guys know National Treasures with Nicolas Cage. I used to love those movies growing up, and if you like those, you will like this 100%. Basically you follow the main character that inherits everything that a billionaire owned out of nowhere. She doesn't know why, nobody knows why. And then she moves into this house, this mansion with the entire family. And there's also a love triangle in it, which I thought I didn't like love triangles, but I actually do. And in this mansion, there's a lot of puzzles, a lot of riddles, a lot of things that the grandfather of the brothers Hawthorne, left. And they have to find out why is selected for the inheritance. It's so fast-paced. The chapters are literally like 3 pages long. I'm not kidding. Not even 1 page. And throughout the book, it's literally just like that. So it makes it really fast to read. And then lastly, I cannot not and those because they're so great, and I think it's also a really good way to start and introducing yourself to thrillers, mysteries. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, and it's about Pip, which is a teenager in high school. She lives in this town where a young girl, a bunch of years prior to that disappeared, and nobody knows what happened to her. Nobody knows if she's dead or alive. Nobody knows. She starts investigating in this case, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot of things coming forward. I love the format of this one. You also have recordings of her podcast, so it's basically like a podcast, and you're trying to find who the killer was or what happened to the girl with her. And I love it because there's like the evidence that are shown within the book, like there's like pictures. I think it's super interactive in a sense. And there's also a TV show that came out last year. Hold on, I got it. I really got it. Okay, got it. Some fantasy recommendations. If you cannot tell, fantasy is my favorite genre. So let's get started. We cannot start the fantasy recommendations without talking about my favorite fantasy author. And if you are not new to this channel, you're probably sick of me because I've talked about those books so many times, but I cannot not recommend it. Stephanie Garber's World, the beauty that comes with it. I'm absolutely obsessed. The first series that she came out with is Caraval series. There's 3 books and 1 novella. This talks about 2 sisters that get invited in Caraval. Caraval is like a magical festival, I would say, but it's like magical festival that gives off circus vibes. A magician that is called Legend, and in this festival in Caraval, there's like a lot of things going on, and everybody is trying to win something, and there's a lot going on. Like, I don't even know how to explain it, but let's just say that it's so cool. And once again, the writing is absolutely incredible. I love Stephanie Garber's writing. I love the magical world that she created. It is really hard to explain what Caraval is without spoiling things. So this is Caraval. And then moving on, which happens in the same world as Caraval, but like it's the same magic system, the same world, but like in different place. My favorite series of all time, which is Once Upon a Broken Heart. You follow Evangeline and Jax. I want you to know anything, but let's just say that this is my absolute favorite series, fantasy series of all time. Up till now, I mean, I could read something that blows my mind, but up till now, those are my favorites. I mean, look at the covers as well, and there's so many quotes in those books as well, and I love the characters. I love just like the energy that those books bring, and the magic system, guys, is impeccable. Caraval comes before Once Upon a Broken Heart, but I read Once Upon a Broken Heart before reading Caraval. But if you want to understand more of the world, she definitely goes more into detail in Caraval than in Once Upon a Broken Heart. So sometimes I was a bit confused, but at the same time, it's like also the whole point of the world system. And one last thing that I want to show you guys is the map, because this is the most beautiful map that I've ever seen. So next we have a duology, which is the Shepherd King duology. So mind, I still have to read the second book. But as for the first one, I highly recommend it. It is really airy, really like dark. It's perfect for October. It's perfect for the fall vibes. I absolutely love this because of the magic system. The most particular thing about the magic system is that it's all surrounded by magic cards. So basically each card has some magic. Like for example, there's a card that can bring you to meet the dead, or there's another one that makes you beautiful. And you basically follow the main character, Elspeth, that was infected by the darkness, and now she has like a voice in her head that talks to her, and it's really cool. She's the only one that is able to spot the Providence cards, which is the cards that I just talked about. And this is a little simple explanation of what this duology is about, but I absolutely loved it, and I loved the vibe and loved the magic system so much. So highly recommend this one. And also Rachel Gillick is coming out with a new book. Also Stephanie Garber is coming out with a new book in September, which I'm really excited, and I will never shut up about it. But Rachel Gillick is coming out also with a new book, which I'm also really excited about. Moving on, this is a retelling, which I wanted to include in this video because one of the coolest things that I found in this book community and just like reading books are retelling of stories that you already love. And this one is a retelling of Alice in Wonderland, and it's Heartless. This follows the Queen of Hearts and how she became the Queen of Hearts. And if you love Alice in Wonderland's aesthetic and just like vibes and magic system, I definitely would recommend obviously reading Heartless. And there's also a little romance going on. You're kind of more familiar with the world system. Speaking of world system, I cannot not recommend this because it was so popular last year. It's not one of my favorites, but I think a lot of people enjoyed it, so I will still tell you and talk about this. But the next book is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This is a YA fantasy that talks about Peyton and Kai. One of the things that is most famous about this book is the banter between the two characters, and everybody loves the banter between them two and the quotes and just like the scenes of them together. This book reminds people a lot, which I do agree, of the Hunger Games. So if you loved the Hunger Games, you love the books, if you love the movies, I would recommend Powerless. It is a fantasy, but it's like a more of easy fantasy. So basically in this world, there's two sides. So the ordinary and the elites. The elites have like magical powers and the ordinaries don't. And there's like a competition happening, like kind of the Hunger Games, which they have to compete between each other and use their powers to compete. But the main character is an ordinary. She doesn't have powers, which it's not seen really good in this world, and they are slowly like killing the ordinaries because they don't want people without powers, and she basically fakes it. And I love that part because the main character is such a badass, and I think it's like a really easy, cool fantasy. I think a lot of people started with this one as well, so I highly recommend it for that reason. Moving on, if you like more contemporary fantasy, I highly recommend Legendborn. This is one of my recent favorites. It's by a Black author, which is also really important to diversify your library and like really pay attention to who the author is, diversify and be conscious about who you read and what they stand for. So I wanted to obviously include it here because one, I love this book so much, and also because it is important to diversify as well. Anyways, besides that, this is a great fantasy. The writing is incredible. It talks about this girl that is the daughter of a woman that died in an accident, quote unquote, and she goes to the school. It's a private school. I thought it was like in college, but it's not. It's actually like a high school, but it's a private high school where they have like dorms and stuff. It's also a little bit like of a dark academia. It's perfect for the fall vibes as well. I loved it for that. And basically she finds out that her mom's death has a lot to do with a secret society that happens in the school that she later takes part of, or at least like gets familiar with. And then she discovers even like her magical abilities and all that. And I think it's super cool because it is set in, you know, our world, but with a touch of magic. And yeah, I absolutely love this book, and I love how there's like a lot of attention to the ancestors and all that. So highly recommend this one. This is a trilogy. Legendborn is the first book, Bloodmarked is the second book, and then the third book I think came out recently. Last recommendations but not least is The World of Trisha Levenseller. I recently read this book. It's literally my last read, but last year I discovered this author, which I think is impeccable for many reasons. First of all, her writing is really fast-paced. You get immersed easily into the story. Second, the magic system is really easy. The world building is really easy to follow. Most of them are like world buildings that we already know. This follows a pirate, and this one is kind of like talks about a king that has magical powers, but nothing crazy. So it's a perfect way to start in a fantasy. But the thing that I love the most that in this series I discovered, but it kind of got confirmed with The Shadow Between Us, is her representation of a badass woman, female main character. I absolutely love the female main characters of both of those books because they're all like very independent. They don't need a man. They are good on their own, and the man is an accessory, and I absolutely love that. Here we follow the daughter of a pirate king, which is also the captain of her own ship. This one, if you follow a girl that is very ambitious, it has some men troubles. If she doesn't get her way, she's a bit loca, but that's what I love about her. And then later her ambition is to become queen, so marry the king and kind of like be queen and rule the world, literally. Done with the book recommendations. Now let's jump to the next part of this video. If you're not a reader, you probably can guess where you can buy the book. Correct answer, the bookstore or Amazon or online bookstores or whatever. I just want to get a little bit more into details about that because I feel like it's a bit unpopular, and I know that books are very expensive, especially if you don't live in the UK, that each book is really cheap and they have so many deals. I would move to the UK just for that. So first and foremost, don't slip away from used books, even within Amazon, which I don't recommend, but I understand that it's like sometimes very cheap to buy on Amazon, like cheaper than the bookstore, so I understand the convenience, but I don't love Amazon. But anyways, within Amazon on its own, there's like the used option, so you can go on a book and you can find underneath, sometimes there's like the used book option, which is a couple euros or dollars, like less than the actual price of the book if you buy it new. And I bought a lot of books that are used and they're in perfect conditions, same book, so it just does not make sense to pay the full price of that. There's like even cheaper versions than that. I recently discovered a new site, which is booktube, which is the perfect way to buy series. I've showed you a lot of series here, but if you look to that site and you type like a series and there is like a big discount on the entire series and you have all the books within the series, like, which is a really great deal. And once again, don't slip away from used books. I recently bought from awesomebooks.com and I got so many books for literally like under 100 euros. For example, I bought this book there and is exclusive Waterstone edition and has sprayed edges, and I got it for 4 euros. 4 euros is really cheap for a book, obviously, and as you can see is in perfect conditions, literally not a scratch. And don't slip away from used books because it's a cheap version, it's a cheap way to find new books. Speaking of used books, I have been using Vinted a lot for buying books because on Vinted you could just search the book that you're interested in and most likely you have a lot of options to that book, and you can contact the seller and you could see the actual copy. And Vinted is very safe because if you don't receive the parcel, the person is not getting paid, so you're not getting scammed or whatsoever. The only thing that you have to be careful by the timing so that you can check the book if it's in good qualities or not, and then you can communicate directly with Vinted and see for a refund and stuff like that. I highly recommend Vinted. It is so cheap, and also obviously if you want to sell some books, if you're not interested in collecting books, you can simply read the book and then resell it again on Vinted. I've sold so many books on Vinted, so I highly recommend that as well. And obviously Facebook Marketplace, but it always depends on where you are, so I think Vinted is the perfect way. I also have a Vinted, so we'll link it down below, and I'm going to be selling some books there as well, which I'll put it in the description box if you're interested. Okay, but there's also another option to read books that cost less, which is Kindle. So it's either Kindle, the Kindle itself, or the Kindle app, which I will talk about it when I talk about the bookish apps. So if you want to invest on a Kindle, honestly, I recommend it to everyone because I personally love my Kindle. It's so versatile. You can read it in bed, you can read it with the lights out. One of my favorite features is the dyslexic feature because I'm, for example, dyslexic, and I found out that I actually read so much faster when I read on my Kindle and when I have the dyslexic font than when I read a physical book. Sometimes like my eyes just like go wherever, but with the dyslexic feature it's really easy for me. You have like different fonts. You can maxify the size of the font, or you can put it more bold. You can modify the layout, the theme, and all that. Like there's a lot of things that you can do with a Kindle, and I think that's really easy and versatile. Once again, sometimes one of the things that pisses me off the most is small fonts, and every time that I see a book or that I buy a book that has a small font, I most likely will read it on my Kindle because I am really dyslexic and I already have eye problems. So But small fonts are not for me. My Kindle is a lifesaver most of the time. And also, if you want you have a subscription, which is like Kindle Unlimited subscription, which is around like €9.99. I'm not really sure in dollars how much it is, but it's definitely cheaper than the book. And you can find books that are around like €4, €5, $5, $4 deals where you can find books of like 99 cents, which is insane. Most of the time it will be cheaper to buy the book in the Kindle than the physical book. If you're not interested into collecting books and you just want to read them, literally do not need space. Like, you don't need space in your house to collect books. If you want to travel, you just need your Kindle and you have like all the amounts of books that you will like. And also with the Kindle, like, you can also buy used. Like, you don't have to buy like the newest one. There's like a new one that came out recently, which is like the colored one, which is really cool. I wanted it so bad, but I have the Kindle Paperwhite that I bought like a couple years ago and I'm obsessed with it, and you literally do not need the newest one. So it can be cheap, and also you can buy used. You can buy it on Vinted, you can buy it on Facebook Marketplace, you can buy it on used websites. Even Amazon sometimes, like, again, has like the used option, so you could check in there as well and see what you can get. But if you don't want to invest in anything and you don't want to buy anything, if you have an iPad, if you have a phone, you can simply read on your phone or your iPad, just like to see if you even like reading or if you're interested in reading, because I understand that sometimes you invest money in something that probably will last 2 weeks and doesn't make sense. So just start on your phone or your iPad or your computer. With that being said, you can have the Kindle app, obviously, and you can have the same books that you have on your Kindle, and you can add new ones. You have Kindle Unlimited, so you can read for free, for example, and all that, and you have the same exact features of a Kindle, but you have it on your phone, which most likely you will already have. Then other bookish apps that I highly recommend is Everend. Everend is the first, and it's probably my favorite app on the App Store. I don't see people talking about it enough, but so I personally use it more for audiobooks than anything, but there's like so many ebooks here as well that have like both the version of an ebook or an audiobook version. They add so many books all the time, like, it is insane. Like, there are so many good books and I'm like, I cannot believe that they're actually in this app. And you pay a subscription, which is like €10.99. It's pretty cheap, like still cheaper than a book. Like, I always think, like, if the subscription is cheaper than the book and like I read multiple books in there, to me it's basically like so convenient. That's girl math or book math, whatever you want. It is so good. Like, it literally has the Shatter Me series in it. It has When the Moon Hatched, which is like a book that I want to read so bad. Those Hell Vows, which is also a very cool book. There is like everything that you might want. There is like the Hunger Games series, which is also cool. There's so many different books that I know that I will love and that I want to read that are on my TBR. So highly recommend Everend. And then there's also Storytel. One of the things that I hate about Storytel is that I cannot put high speed. Like, I think the maximum is like 1.5, and I usually put it like in 2 and 2.5. Not because I want to finish the books in like 2 hours, it's because my brain can literally not function at 1.5. Like, it is so boring to me. Like, I need that speed, you know? That is the only thing that is annoying to me. But it's also subscription, which I don't remember how much it is, but there are so many different books here as well. So if it's something that does not bother you, I would highly suggest this one. They literally have so many different books here, like so many. The next one is Audible. I have a love and hate relationship with Audible because the subscription, I believe it's a little too high, which is a lot. But at the same time, like, sometimes you want to listen to an audiobook and you cannot find it. I go on Audible and sometimes like the audiobook, it's like €5 and I'm like, okay, whatever. Sometimes I don't even own the physical copy of that book, so it just makes sense for me to pay €5. It is sometimes convenient, and I would suggest not to pay the subscription, because if you find the audiobook somewhere else, sometimes like even on YouTube they have audiobooks, or they have like people that read the book. I don't think it's very convenient to pay like €17 per month for a credit, because most of the time the book within Audible you can pay like so much less than that. So that's my suggestion on that. Another thing that I want to talk about is Goodreads. So this is my Goodreads. And if you're interested, this is like the social media for bookish people. It's basically where you track your books, is where you add more books into your little like digital bookshelf that you want to read, your TBR or whatever. You have a different, like a challenge in it. Put this year I want to read, for example, I don't know, 20 books, and you put that in so that you can keep track of your reading. And I think it's amazing. I love Goodreads so much. It's one of my favorite social media platforms. I mean, it's not really really a social media platform, but it's like a really cool community where there's also a lot of authors that write comments and stuff, so that's also really cool. It's a way to connect to readers because literally that's all you have. Like there's just readers there, and I think it's really cool and highly recommend to make a Goodreads account. Alright, so those are the bookish apps that I personally recommend. And moving on, I want to talk about like bookish things. So if you read some of those books and you absolutely love them and you start getting obsessions, new favorite books and all that, you would most likely find book merch or bookish things. Book merch is a big thing that I still have not taken part of. I think I have one t-shirt that has like book club in it, but that's it. But there's so many bookish stores online that are really great and that I always look at different things. I think I want to get a Magnolia Parks sweatshirt or something, like House of Jupiter, I think that's the name, which is really popular, probably one of the popular book merch stores. And I would say like one of the main stores where you can buy book merch or like bookish things is Etsy. There's so many stores there, and I think like the beauty of bookish merch is that you support small businesses. Most like stores are small businesses and they are from girls like me and you, and I think that's incredible. But it's not necessary obviously at all. I mean, you don't have to be spending money because there's a lot of bookish things that you can also DIY, which one of my favorite things is the book journal. So I have done this last year. This is my first reading journal, and this one is my second reading journal, which is the ones of this year, and I'm having so much fun with it. And I think it's a really fun way to just do something bookish and feel in the bookish world and the book community. You're not spending a lot of money on anything, you're just doing your little DIYs and little like arts and crafts and stuff like that. And I think reading journals are the perfect way to kind of track your books and be creative with it. Another thing that I want to dive into is book nooks. Like there's those little things that you put between books. Like for example, you have like a bunch of books and then in the middle you put a book nook, and you can do it in different ways. Like I've seen the Game of Thrones one, I've seen the Chronicles of Narnia, I've seen like so many that are so cool, and I highly recommend to check them out because it is super dope. It's like I wanted to include this because like yes, there's the books, but there's so much more to that, and I think that is what kept me staying and kept me going in this community that I love, and I'm now taking part of it with this YouTube channel and with my BookTok. Which, speaking of, let's talk about the book community. The book community has been huge. Like literally so many things have been influenced by the book community and by BookTok specifically. This is my BookTok, by the way, if you want to check it out. I've recently started BookTok, and I have had like the amount of support of the girls there, and even like guys sometimes, but like mainly the girls, is absolutely insane. Like the amount of support and the amount of like sweet people that I have followed and have followed me back, and people that comment and I comment them back, like it is absolutely beautiful, all because of words written in a page. It is something that I will never wrap my hand around it, like how much power the book community has in the industry, both in the songs. Like for example, the new Alex Warren song, literally he acknowledged the fact that it's popular in BookTok because everybody on BookTok is talking about that song. And same thing with movies. Like literally we've talked about some books that are turning into movies or series with Netflix. Like insane. I think that's the beauty of it. Like it has so much power, but I understand that sometimes it can be toxic because of the consumerism that would come with it. We've touched on multiple times about this topic, and same thing with the criticism of certain people that, you know, criticize other people because of the books that they read. And sometimes, which is something that I personally agree with, is the political views of some authors, and I think that is important. If you enter the book community, I personally would suggest to pay attention to who you're reading, because sometimes they're terrible people, so why would you support an author if they're terrible people? Like for example, Harry Potter. I personally love Harry Potter. I love that world. I will forever love it. It's a big, huge part of my childhood. But I don't want to support the author because she is, newsflash, transphobic, and so many other things. I don't want to support her. And there's other ways to read books and not support the authors, or don't read the books. Like I already read Harry Potter. I already love Harry Potter, whatever. But like, for example, there's other author that I'm not going to name here because I don't want, you should not support them. But once again, like you do whatever you want, but do not forget that books and BookTok, because they have so much power, it is political. With that being said, It's a beautiful, beautiful community with so many girlies and boys as well. Everybody, most of the time, not always, but most of the time supports each other. There's drama like in every single side of the internet. It's not something like a surprise or anything. Like, other than that, I think it brought so many people together. It brought also a lot of like things together, like even different industries, the music industry, the film industry, like they're all brought together because of this world and because girlies like me and you created a space where people felt safe talking about their silly little characters, the silly little plots, the silly little books, sharing their lives, sharing that. So I highly recommend for you even to make a book talk, and trust me, you will get more and more passionate about books on its own, because that's what happened to me. Like, the reason why I'm doing this and the reason why I'm reading books and the reason why I read the books that I read is because of the people in here that inspired me. One, two, recommended me books that I loved, and then I picked other books that I loved. So highly recommend to even take part in the community if you want. You don't have to, but I think for me personally, it motivated me a lot, and maybe, who knows, in 1 year you're gonna be in front of a camera talking about books like me. I will list some of my favorite creators. Those are the ones. I follow them religiously. I love them. I love their videos. I'm more of a booktube girly. I love booktube. I love long form content. I love YouTube. That's why I'm doing it as well. And I'm not really familiar with booktok. So with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. This was a long one. My throat hurt so bad because I talked so much, but I really hope this video was helpful for you. I really hope you took something from it. If you did, comment down below what book you're gonna read next. Even though I did not recommend any of those, like, let me know your favorite book so far. Let me know anything about your experience in booktok. The beauty of this hobby is the community that comes with it, and I want to know your experiences as well, because mine was really great. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So also subscribe to my channel if you want. I upload mostly like book videos, but I also upload other things if you're interested in other things as well. Thank you for watching, and yeah, I will see you in the next video. Bye!